Out on the early morning streets. Let me start one more time.
Yeah.
We do it this way. It's not in tune, man.
Man.
You can cut if you want for a second.
Yep.
Just gonna be this.
Say that again.
So this one's called The Edge of Darkness. Out on the early morning streets, a crowd gathers one by one. News reported there were no survivors, showed a close-up of the gun. And a mile away, car door slams, lovers ride off unseen. A couple runaways, free and horny, locking eyes with a pretty dream. When the straw man stands too close to the flame, there's bound to be hell to pay. But the streams of piss and the boarded up windows won't be missed today. There's winners and losers wherever you go, but it never even crossed their minds that the world they put their headlights on was no better than the one behind. But out on the edge of darkness, burning up the lost highway, they were looking for the blood of America, the footprints of the USA. Well, they raised a flag on Omaha Beach, put a tyrant in every home. Derricks pumping by for miles and miles where the buffalo used to roam. They were kids no more, they were stoned with desire. They wanted everything that shined. With floods in the south, the west is on fire, barbed wire on the borderline. But out on the edge of darkness, another war where the children play. And it only happens in America. God bless the USA. I watched a shuttle explode on a rerun clip when I was sick in a waiting room. And the tear gas blooms, they turned into roses they placed on the unmarked tomb. On the sacred land of truth and myth, where the pagan cowboy rides. In the same warehouse, they shot the moon landing there, cooking up genocide. But out on the edge of darkness, your mother and JFK, they're looking for the ghost of America, the spirit of the USA. And it only happens in America. God bless the USA.
Cut. Is that right?
Rolling?
Rolling.
All right, have fun.
Thanks. Fuck. So now let's do this.
Yeah.
Hello, what's up? You're live on the mic with D in the dojo with Diane Carroll, everybody, broadcasting from Nashville to you and the world. Today I have with me Jeremy Ivey. Jeremy, thank you for fulfilling your commitment and showing up today.
Of course.
Namaste, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Jeremy, I could treat this one or two ways. I could just ask you these hard-hitting questions where I just feel like we have so much in common, or we can do a fluff piece. What should we give the audience?
Whatever you feel.
All right, we're just gonna go down. Okay, we'll get the genre question out of the way. I came up with a name. It might already be catching on, but you're definitely a twang sang, like somewhere
Twang
Americana, whole bunch of folk Americana I pick up from you. Mm-hmm. I was listening to Invisible Pictures, And well, we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's go back chronologically real quick. So you were homeschooled and you're adopted. Do you want to talk about that?
Those are both true things, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was adopted.
How big was the family that you were adopted into?
At that point, it was 3 people. It was my mother and father that adopted me, and my brother, who was from another adopted family.
Okay.
He's older, so he was already in the family when I showed up.
Who did the homeschooling curriculum? Like
My mother.
mom did?
Yeah. My dad, he worked at a bank and traveled a lot. And yeah, so homeschooling was okay up until a certain age, and then it was really lonely because he didn't have friends, you know.
Right.
But for a while, it was kind of nice because I would be done with my school at noon, and so I could kind of have the rest of the day to do whatever I wanted because there wasn't all the in-between time that it takes to go to school with, you know, lunch period and in between classes and all that. It was just like boom, boom,
Yeah.
you know, learning. And then
Where did your mother stand? Was she college educated, your adopted mom?
no, but she didn't. I mean, I only went to about 8th grade with her, and then I went to high school.
Just-
She
you
went
know-
to where she could teach us, and then she was kind of like, "I'm out," you know.
That's admirable. I love homeschool. We homeschool my teenager. He's about to graduate high school, so that's
Yeah,
cool. Here's something dark for you.
nice.
I once read that when an orphan is left behind by his mother or given up, that he'll cry or she'll cry, they'll cry, and they'll cry and they'll cry and they'll long and they'll loss, but eventually they go mute. That's not the case in your point.
I didn't go mute, but I did do something. I had some behavior that's kind of indicative of orphans. When I was a little baby in my crib, I would, to go to sleep, I would hit my head against the side of the wall of the crib, and that's how I would calm myself, go to sleep. And I guess I've read that that's kind of something that happens when a baby is not around its natural mother or something. But eventually, you just become numb, which is what adulthood is, you know.
Yeah, eventually, I guess so. When did you start dabbling? Wait. So then you were in an Orthodox Christian home.
Yeah, so very much. Even, you know, in the homeschool days, I was going to church, and I was not allowed to listen to secular music.
Right.
I was only allowed to listen to classical or Christian.
Me too.
And I chose classical because I thought it was more interesting musically than Christian music was.
Right. With all due respect to Christian music, sometimes it just drones.
Well, I think that
a lot of it
maybe
blends
it's come a long
together.
way now, but when
Has it?
in the 90s, I don't know. I mean, it was just kind of like, it just sounded like generic rock, you know.
Well,
Like the most-
I think that, what was that album? I don't know. It is kind of generic rock. You can heavily feel their influences. Now, listening to your music, on the other hand, it's kind of hard to peg your influences, which would revert back to maybe the chronology of your introduction to music. You don't have a lot of those guys to pull from in your early years.
Yeah, when I first
Fine.
started playing guitar, I wasn't really allowed to listen to much, but I was sneaking it though. You know, a big one for me was like when like the Unplugged Nirvana thing came out. I think I burned a CD of it, and or I got it on a cassette. I can't remember what it was, but I had it somewhere, and I would hide things in my vent in my room.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had like music down there. That was one
Never
of the,
find it here.
Yeah, but the first time I was allowed to actually own was Rubber Soul by the Beatles, which was a great intro to creative rock, you know.
When did you say peace? I'm going to go out on my own. And did that sever a relationship? Are you still in a relationship with
Yeah, I mean,
mom
my
and
parents,
dad?
you know, they tried to do what they thought was right, you know.
Yeah.
They were maybe a little misguided, but they were trying to raise me with love, you know. They were trying to protect me from the madness of the world, which maybe they created their own madness in that. But no, I still love them. But yeah, definitely when I was a kid and when I graduated high school, the moment I was done with high school, I was out.
And where'd you go?
Colorado.
Okay. And what's up in Colorado?
At that point, my best friend had moved there, and he'd sent a letter back. This is back in the days, folks, when you wrote letters in the mail.
Yeah.
And he sent a letter and said how amazing it was, and it was paradise, and it was beautiful, and he didn't tell me that there was no women there, but we lived up in this mountain town. I think there was like 2 women to every 7 men was the count.
That's unfortunate, but you have quite the woman.
Yeah, but I was not
then.
I was not a hit with the ladies in the high school days.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna drink water.
No, take some water. Okay. Weird question.
Shoot.
So seriously homeless?
For a little while, yeah. I mean, when I moved to Colorado, I lived in a tent for 6 months.
Oh, shit.
Up in this, it was kind of like a free campsite situation. There was a road called Vasquez Road in Winter Park, Colorado. I lived there for 6 months. But then it got cold, and then I had to get my shit together and get an apartment because
real quick.
it's cold. And then also in Boston, I was homeless for a little while.
Yeah, where?
Downtown. I mean, I got stuck. It wasn't like I was choosing to be. So
Yeah, what happened in Boston? What's the
chooses.
Boston story? Unfold. Boston's listening.
Okay, so I went on this crazy kind of Hunter S. Thompson trip with my friend Isaac. We went up to Quebec with a bunch of drugs, and we did those drugs, and we partied in Quebec. And then when we came back down, all my money was Canadian, but it was all change. I didn't have any bills, but I had a job waiting for me that I was working at in Western Massachusetts. So I had parked my car on Boylston Avenue in Boston.
Yeah.
And I had this change, this Canadian money that equaled about $40 American, So we go get exchanged, get some gas money. My truck was out of gas, and I realized that the foreign exchange banks don't do change; they only do bills.
Yeah.
So at this point, my friend had already left. I was on my own. I didn't have a cell phone in those days. I boycotted cell phones for a long time, but I didn't have a way to call anyone. So I found myself after the first night, which was kind of like a fun experience, going to sleep in the park.
Yeah.
And I did. Then I started getting a little bit more serious where I'm like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And so, I was there for a few weeks. But I worked out a system where there was a Starbucks that was close where I could kind of bathe off and shave. And there was a girl there that I met that was really nice, and she would give me day-old bagels and muffins and things. So I was kind of living off of muffins and bagels and sleeping in the Boston Commons.
Oh, God, that's lovely. You must have been there during the right time of the year.
It was actually perfect. It was like,
nice.
Yeah, like late spring, early summer.
Boston is the best place to be homeless.
It actually worked out fine. The only time I had trouble was one night. I had a really nice sleeping bag because I was a camper in those days. So, I would splurge for the nice Columbia sleeping bag, whatever,
Right.
And so one night I was in the park sleeping, and someone attempted to roll me. There was this old man that was trying to steal my sleeping bag from me while I was sleeping, but I was young and more fit than him. So I was woken up out of my sleep, and so I was panicking. So I proceeded to kick him a lot,
Yeah.
and as you would do, and I kicked him pretty good for a long time. And then I realized, once I kind of finally came awake, that he was hurt, And so then I felt bad. So then I got out of my sleeping bag, and I was helping him. I gave him some water, and I kind of led him over to this bench, and I was like, "Buddy, you okay?"
Yeah.
And then
that's what you get when you try to mess with Jeremy Ivey.
Yeah. But then I was
kidding.
like, "I hope you're okay, whatever." And I was like, "Don't fuck with me, man."
Don't fuck with me, man.
But that was the only thing that happened that was kind of scary.
All right. How'd you meet your wife?
We met at a party in Nashville, Tennessee. It was a college party of a college that neither of us went to because we were both dropouts and losers. And
no.
Yeah, we met, and I was going through a divorce. I was married for a short time before that, and so I wasn't really wanting to meet anyone. I wasn't in that mindset, and she met me the night she met me. She told her friend she was going to marry me.
Stop, really?
No, she did.
I just got chilled.
And her friend was like, "You mean that like depressed loser?"
Oh, no.
And she was like, "Yes."
Oh.
So she married a depressed loser. But yeah, we were off and on for a while, and like I said, I wasn't into being with her. And so I wasn't a great boyfriend at first. I remember this one specific time that I tried to break up with her. We went out to this Irish pub in Antioch. And so, we had a great night. We ate some food and played some darts and had some beers. And at the end of it, I was like, hey, look, Margot, it's not working out. I don't think this is I don't want a long-term thing, I think we need to, scale it back a little bit. And then, so I told her that, and then I realized that I'd left my wallet at my house. And so she had to pay for the meal when I broke up with her.
That's so terrible.
Which was pretty.
She's such a nice lady. How's that going over there?
She was pretty pissed about that, but
she was pretty pissed about that.
I won her back though.
So. You won her back? Did you pay her back? No,
I mean, in certain ways, yes.
Yeah.
A life of devotion.
Hey, Righteous. When was your first performance?
Ever? It was in church.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very.
You remember it?
It was embarrassing.
Distinctly. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, because I had these finger picks I was trying to play with, and they fell off into the sound hole, and I kind of panicked. So yeah.
Okay, do you have a message? Maybe you can contrive one real quick. To other young creators out there right now in regards to finding their own voice, their own process. To each his own. But what's helped you?
Oh man. I wasn't even sure I actually found it. So I think it's always a process. So I think it's you never arrive. But I do remember this about my wife.
Yeah.
Because I can watch her. I can't really watch myself in the same way, because there's some weird thing about self-realization that you don't really know when you've found who you were, But I could watch Margot, and when I met her, she was like the amalgamation of a lot of things she liked, She sounded like Jewel, she sounded like this, whatever,
Yeah.
But I remember at a certain point watching her become
Margot.
her, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that happened for me too, but I think it's just a process of because you imitate things, that's what you do, And that's good. And at some point in the imitation, you find your version of that imitation.
Yeah, imitative becomes creative.
Yeah. So I would say imitate stuff you love, and then find who you are in that,
Right. What compelled you to start writing, especially some of your more political pieces?
I wrote all the way from middle school age. I wrote poems to girls in high school, and
Yay!
I was writing all the time. I was into poetry a lot, and so I think that probably what started the political side of things would be the beat poets. That was Ginsberg especially.
Oh yeah.
Kerouac. Ginsberg was more political than the rest of them, but he had those that little book. It was called Poems of America, and it had some great poems in there. Obviously, Howl. I'm wearing the shirt, which is funny. Howl.
Allen Ginsberg.
This is a political, social poem. Yeah.
Okay.
That and Bob Dylan. When I discovered Bob Dylan, kind of late in the game,
Right.
when everyone else had already known who he was, and so I was in my early 20s.
Is that when the harmonica came into play?
Yeah, I played harmonica. Actually, I got a harmonica when I was 6 years old. My dad bought me one from Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
On a road trip, and I was really excited about it, and he handed it to me when we got in the van, the family van, and I'm in the back, and I start playing, I start wailing on it,
Yeah.
And after about 10 minutes, my dad goes, "Give me that."
Yeah.
I was driving him crazy, so I had to learn how to make it sound okay, so I could play it around my parents.
All right. Have you ever been to Montana?
Oh yeah.
Right, big sky country.
Yeah, I love Montana.
Have you been to all 50 states at this point?
I haven't been to Alaska.
Oh, Alaska's
I've been to
kinda
Hawaii.
Cool. Hawaii's cool. I've never been to North Dakota.
I've been to Dakotas. I didn't think the Dakotas existed for a long time because I never met anyone from there, and I'd never been there.
Yeah,
but I've been there now, so I know it's true.
Okay. So what's up, man? You left Nashville for LA, I read. Is that correct?
No, I never lived in LA.
You never lived in LA, you just worked on an album or something?
Yeah, we did a couple albums there, but yeah.
All right, finish this sentence. life in Los Angeles is like?
Like living in a wonderful snow globe. It's fake, but it's beautiful.
Oh man. Oh God. Okay. Excuse me for 1 second. Jeremy, you realize you're like a literary contemporary artist.
I am, or I know one.
You are one. They're gonna, 20 years from now, they're gonna look up contemporary artists of the 21st century, 21st century. You'll be there, Jeremy. You will be there.
Tell that to the labels that won't put my record out.
To the labels who won't put the record out.
Listen.
You're a little bit of an asshole, but we still like you.
It's true.
We want to bring you in, but you have to play nice. I don't know. I just think it's, when I talk to people about the record label industry and this and that, it's just, it seems so skewed. It's just more followers. And then you have to build this following, and they're not going to touch you if you don't meet a certain quota. I don't know. I would just say keep producing. Now, you're with a rock label right now, or you were?
I was with Anti
Anti
Records,
right.
which is Tom Waits' label.
Sick.
They're like a subsidiary of Epitaph, which is a punk label. So they're more of the, I guess, indie side of things, which I love Anti, and there's no bad blood there. Just
You put out 3 albums with them?
Yeah, I had a 3-record contract. So right now I have a record that's almost done being mixed and everything, and I'm just trying to find a home for it. So I'm not really that bitter. I'm in between records trying to figure out what I'm gonna, where I'm gonna go next. Because I could put it out myself, but I have 2 kids, and and touring with Margot, and I don't have a lot of time to like mail out individual records to people that are ordering them. I need a company to do that for me, So that's the only reason I need a label, is so I need people to do the things that I'm busy chasing around a 5-year-old,
I know, that's cool. It's like being a dad, man.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives your life, or my life at least, a certain focus that I think I needed,
Right. I remember seeing your wife pregnant at Bridgestone Arena for a show. She's beautiful.
Oh yeah,
Beautiful.
that was a Loretta Lynn thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just ask you one last question. Cheating with my phone.
That's okay.
Oh yeah, what's it like being on Saturday Night Live?
That was amazing. I've been a fan my whole life, and it was funny. It was surreal. It was, when you walk in there, everyone says this. It looks tiny. It's a small studio.
Yeah.
And on TV, it looks huge. And so, a couple of things to mention would be, when we first got there, this is right when Margot kind of sort of broke. So we didn't have a bus. We were driving in a van.
Yeah.
We didn't have a crew. We had one guy who did our sound, who tour manages, drove the van, whatever. And so when we showed up to SNL, usually there's this entourage of like, Justin Bieber has like, 1 billion people with him. And so we walk in there carrying our guitars.
Yeah.
And the guys were like, where's the band? We're
Yeah.
like, we are the band. Like, why are you carrying your guitars? Like, well, we don't have anyone to carry them for us. So they were amazed, because the thing about Saturday Night Live is that no one plays live. It's all tracks,
Yeah.
Very rarely do they get a band coming in to play, So they were, these guys that work sound there, these old school guys have been there since the 70s. And they were super excited that we're like, we're going to mic up amps? Hell yeah, So they started like micing amps. And so that was one thing that was a takeaway for me. And also, being around, I knew the whole cast, because I watched the show pretty often still. Being around those guys in the after party was awesome.
Yeah.
And Russell Crowe was the host, yeah. And I don't want to say bad things about Russell Crowe, but
Intense fellow.
he was intense, and we all had drinks, But he kept calling me Steve.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the night, we all had a good time, for sure. We all sat at the table with Lauren, and and at the end of the night, so Russell Crowe gives me a hug. He's like, "I love you, Steve."
Yes.
That was a good takeaway.
What was it like working with Seth Meyers?
Oh, he's great. We did his show. The funny thing is, when we did SNL, they had too many people for the green room, so we were actually, our green room was Seth Meyers' studio.
Yeah.
So before we met him or did his show, we were like hanging out in his space, which we told him about when, you know. But he's great. I love his intellect and his variety of comedy. He's awesome.
I saw you actually in concert in Boston with Miss Margot Price in 2023.
Okay.
That was a game-changing night for me.
Where was that at?
What was the name of that venue? It was somewhere in Alston.
Alston, yeah.
Yeah, I can't recall the name of the venue, but I didn't have any money to get in. It was horrible. And so they asked me what my name was, and I'm like, I am Becky Price.
Nice.
I felt so terrible because
Respect.
you guys are working so hard just to get by. Then here I am sneaking into your private party. It was really fun.
It's better than you not wanting to come at all.
Right.
You know?
Okay, so do the kids get, like, you guys tote them around, or
Yeah.
are you homeschooling them?
No. They go to school.
Okay.
Trust me, I those precious few hours they're at school are
Yeah.
like right now.
Right.
I can do stuff like this, you know. No, they come with us in the summertime. I mean, they, you know, especially the oldest one has to be in school because he's going to high school. Mm-hmm. Like if he misses a week, he's screwed. So the young one can come. She's 5, so she's not going to miss much. But yeah, so they mostly are at home during the school time, and then.
Are they picking up with the music?
They have the talent, and the youngest one definitely has more interest. The older one, our son, he has natural talent. He has these big hands like me. He can play anything, you know.
Yeah.
He can play piano, he can play guitar.
No kidding.
He can play drums, but he doesn't care about it, you know. It's like anything. If you grew up, you know, like my dad was a banker. I didn't want to be a banker, you know.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to force it on him, but I think at some point it's probably going to dawn on him that, like,
it's bad.
being who his mother is and the whole situation, he's probably just going to be in music no matter what he wants, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have talent for sure.
Well, I know you have a basketball game to get to. I could ask you a million more questions. I just have a couple spitfire ones.
Okay.
Everybody out there listening and watching right now, what are your thoughts on love, Jeremy?
On love?
How would you frame love, finding love, finally?
I think it's the sole reason that we're born. I think that the only reason that we're here is to love and to be loved. So I think it's the most important thing that we can do.
Any advice for the audience?
Stay away from bed bugs if you're a touring musician.
Oh, God.
Always check on the corners of the bed. See if there's eggs in there. No, I mean, just I would say, if I had real advice, on a serious note, I would say try to reach across the bounds of differences that you have with people and try to connect with them. Try to talk to people that you're not like, because you might learn something, and vice versa.
Yeah, this is a shining example right now. Thoughts on revenge, Jeremy?
Revenge? Oh, I think it's overrated. I think forgiveness is cool.
Yeah.
But I will have. That doesn't mean I won't have my revenge.
Yeah.
And you know who you are out there.
You know who you are out there. Okay. Final question. Second to final question. Does a musician ever retire? Are you obsessed with music? How does that work?
Yeah, it is an obsession. It's an addiction. Sometimes I wish I could put it away, and sometimes I think I do, and then I'll go a stint without writing or anything, and then it'll come back.
It just comes back? You don't summon it back?
No. I remember the first time it happened, I was about 6 or 7, and I was at my grandmother's house, and she had this out-of-tune piano, and I just felt this weird, like, magnetic pull toward it. You know, I had to keep playing it, you know. And that's kind of how I am now. You know, it's just I won't be thinking about trying to write a song and then an idea will pop in my head or a line will pop in my head, and then from then to the next couple of days, I'm obsessed with making that work. You know. Righteous.
That's how it should be. Jeremy, is there anything else that maybe I didn't ask that you'd like to express, share?
No, I think you've been pretty thorough. I mean, I love food. I got to I've been able to travel the world and eat, and I think that there's two things that travel gives you. It's one, it melts away any sort of bigotry you have for any type of person, because you meet everyone in every walk of life. The other thing is you get to eat great food. So that's been a great joy of traveling, is to be able to, if I'm a when in Rome eater, so I might go on a diet when I'm here at home, but when I'm in Brooklyn, I'm eating pizza. When I'm so it's fun to look at a musician's life that way. You get to go eat po' boys in New Orleans, and
Po' boys in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And you were just in New Orleans, and Miss Margaret Price just played New Orleans. What's coming up for you? You have an album that you're putting the final touches on. We're shopping different labels, which is cool because we're sending you good vibes, receiving vibes.
Yeah.
Receive the record label deal. You're going to be great. You're going to be fine.
I'll be okay.
Meanwhile, now that this album's almost done, are you planning your next album? Or do you take a little hiatus there? Do you pump one out a year? I'm not quite sure. Where can we go to see more of Jeremy Ivey?
I'm playing in town at a bar called Brown's.
Right.
Brown's Diner, and that's on the 22nd of May, if this comes out before then. And as far as another album, I've already written it, but, I've got to take baby steps, get this one out first, but...
Righteous. That's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Work harder. Work as hard as you can all the time, I guess. I don't know what great piece of advice to dole out. Jeremy, thank you for being in the dojo with Diane Carroll. You've been Jeremy Ivey.
You've been Diane.
That's right. Okay. All right, man.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you.
Woo! And thanks for tuning in. See you guys next time. Go to jeremyivey.com. Right?
.net.
.net.
Yeah. Close.
Thanks, guys. All right, cool.
Hell yeah. Out on the early morning streets, a crowd gathers one by one. News reported there were no survivors, showed a close-up of the gun. And a mile away, the car door slams, lovers ride off unseen. A couple run away